as funny as this is, many of us spent the time we're supposed to use chasing new customers, commenting on Instagram threads, commenting on Facebook threads, on TikTok, on TV, watching movies, the next Netflix thing, and you just got distracted. It's a big problem. Many people don't realize that as you scale your company, you're growing with people. Before, you could look around the room and you know everybody, you see them, you know them by name, but at some point you just realize that the company is growing very fast. You come into the office, you see somebody and you're wondering, have I seen this person before? So you want to make sure that you're under authority as well. You want to make sure that somebody's checking you against the goals. Otherwise, you just set a goal. If you don't meet it, nobody holds you accountable. It's one of the most scary things that any entrepreneur can have. Going into a meeting knowing full well someone is going to ask you a question. You said you were going to add 30 new customers to the pipeline, and you're going to onboard 3-4 new customers. The question is, what happened? You did not. You now have to start explaining to them. The fact that you're going to make that explanation puts you on your toe every single day to make sure that you can achieve those goals. Hello everyone, it's Christmas season, and I know we are all excited to be at the end of the year. Probably many of us are already taking a well-deserved vacation, holidays. We're traveling with family or spending time with family, friends, and we're just trying to think through what has happened during the course of the year, during the course of 2025, mentally starting to think about 2026 and how you want to prepare and plan for 2026. So this is going to be my last video for 2025, and first of all, let me say big thanks to everyone who's taking some time to watch 1 or 2 or 3 episodes that I've produced in the past. It's all focused on the how and why we entrepreneurs need to upskill themselves in order to scale and grow their businesses, and I've put out a lot of content out there that would be very helpful to several entrepreneurs in order to help them scale and grow their business. So if you have not, take some time to subscribe to this channel, go back to watch earlier episodes and many other episodes that we've produced. We've had several guests over the year that have come to share from their wealth of experience, and I've also shared from my own experience investing in the food. I'm an investor in the food and ag sector across sub-Saharan Africa. So from my experience of looking at SMEs in this sector, but this knowledge spreads across, you can really replicate it in other places as well. From my experience doing that, what I've also tried to do is to provide content that I believe will be very well tailored and targeted towards SMEs and towards entrepreneurs, such that if you're thinking of ways and manners in which you can adjust, tweak things within the composition of your organization, your team, your strategy, your structure, policies, systems, the things you prioritize, the things you deprioritize, then you want to watch some of these episodes to see some of the information that we've shared out there. But the final video this year, as you would expect, is as you're going on your vacation, I just want us to do together like a post-mortem and see how did 2025 go, in your business, what worked, what did not work. And just let's just go through some of those thoughts together. And I think the first place I want to start from, is to say, did you even set goals for 2025? And if you did, as for your organization, how well did you cascade those goals down to the rest of your team? So did you just set a company-wide goal, but somehow that did not trickle down to everybody in your team? And when I say everybody in your team, every single person on your team, even the people that you feel like, okay, maybe they're just 1-2 years in the company, they're very junior. What do they have responsibility for? They do have responsibility for specific things. So did you set those targets? If you did not, that's fine. It's not fine, but there is going to be an opportunity for you to do that again. But if you did set the goal, now this is the time for you to do an assessment and check if the things you achieved in the year is in line with the goals that you set at the start of the year. In other words, you want to ask yourself, we set certain goals, we set certain targets, we wanted to achieve them within a certain period. Did we meet those goals? One of the easy ones is your top line, your sales number, your revenue. Did you meet the revenue target you have for this year? You might not have done your accounts or your financials, so you don't know how profitable you were, but did you meet the profitability target? Are there other measures that helps you to predetermine or more or less guesstimate where you will end your year at? For example, you want to acquire new customers. Did you acquire as many customers as you wanted to acquire? Did you move your products into as many channels as you wanted to? Did you onboard the right number of team members that you wanted to onboard into the company? Did you sort out your obligations, your liabilities as you expected to during the course of the year? So I just wanted to take some time to do that assessment and ask yourself, don't just let the year pass and say, okay, yeah, it's one of those years. No, even if the things did not go as well as you wanted them to, the more reason why you have to do this exercise to understand what happened during the course of the year. Now, if we've thought about the goals, whether you met them or not, the question is, if you met those goals, well done. If you did not meet them, what happened? And then maybe you said it's close enough. Are you happy with that result? Close enough sometimes, maybe because you give yourself an audacious, very, very aggressive target, and you felt you're close enough to that target, and you're happy with the results. Sometimes you're happy with the result also because you know all the headwinds that hit you in that year. But despite the fact you felt like you ended the year way better than you would otherwise have, given all the headwinds, all the things, issues, dynamics, conditions that were working against you, yet you met those goals. So maybe you want to give yourself a pat on the shoulder. But starting with, if you really met your goals, if you feel you met your goals, while I'm, patting you on the back and saying well done, the question I also want to ask you, did you think those targets or those goals you set, they were aggressive, they were strong enough, they were challenging enough for you and the rest of the team to achieve those goals? And if you feel you did not meet those goals, what happened? I think it's a good time for us to do the to do that analysis and look back and say, what exactly was the reason why I did not meet that goal? You can start from looking at it from a strategic point of view. What was your strategy for 2025, and how well did you execute on those strategies? It's good enough to have a strategy, but at the end of the day, strategy is just very nice looking. You can add it to you can put it on the wall of your room and recite it every morning. But if you do not execute on that strategy, and execution has many faces. One is having the right people and making sure that the right people are being incentivized well enough and rightly to be able to deliver on the goals that you've set for them. So the first thing you want to look at is your strategy. The second thing you want to look at is your implementation and execution. Were you able to execute? And one way to measure your execution is throughout the course of the year. There have been many targets that you set. Were people meeting those targets, or were there a lot of excuses that were being given, and as a result you were not able to meet the sales target? I just gave some example many years ago. One of the companies that I was on the board of, it was a dairy company, and when we were setting the goals for the year, you already plan your sales forecast, and you know that during the cold months people don't take as much yogurt as you would expect, in the warmer or hotter months, and you expect that sales would dip a little bit. During this period, people do all sort of creative things, whether they do discounts, they do promotions, and many other things. But I was surprised when at the board meeting we were asking questions on why sales dropped during this period. And one thing that they kept saying that, it's a cold period and people are not taking as much. And I was taken aback because we forecasted for that, event happening, that people will consume less, and as a result sales will decline. So when you were preparing for forecast at the start of the year, did you not consider, you already considered those factors? How is it now playing in? I expect that sales would dip, but it dipped way below what we forecasted or what we budgeted. So there is definitely a problem happening there. There's a problem with execution in that regard. It might also be a problem with how well you were able to follow through on opportunities that came your way. For example, you had sales, you had channels, you had good sales funnel, but for some reasons you just could not close on those sales coming through those funnel. You just could not close on them, either because you were so busy firefighting the issues with current your current customers and clients, such that you did not have enough time to uncover those new assets. And that might be an helpful thing on its own, in the sense that maybe you realize that, look, there's something wrong with the value proposition I have today. I need to fix that before I onboard new customers. But you need to know that it was a deliberate decision, not just because you got caught in fighting those fires, and as a result you were unable to focus on growing the business. So if that is the situation, you want to ask yourself, why was I firefighting so much? If there's a problem with the product or the service that we are offering, we need to fix it, because it means that that's the same thing that's going to happen in 2026. You're going to spend so much time firefighting, and customers get weary when they're in a situation where they're always firefighting with their supplier or the company that is providing them with that service or product. They will walk away as soon as they find an alternative. In fact, some will just walk away even without an alternative. So it's not even a good strategy to remain in the place of firefighting. So you want to ask yourself, what exactly is the problem? What exactly is the issue that was causing the firefighting? And if it's a regular operational dynamics, the question is, should you have someone man that particular bucket or that particular department or units to face and address customer issues, rather than you facing that, and you can focus on growing the business. You can focus on uncovering new channels, onboarding new customers, and trying to fix other parts of your business. So that's another thing you need to look at. The people, there might also be people you might have had several problems, with people, especially, for example, if you're growing. It's a big problem. Many people don't realize that as you scale your company, you're growing with people. Before, you could look around the room and you know everybody, you see them, you know them by name, but at some point you just realize that the company is growing very fast. You come into the office, you see somebody and you're wondering, have I seen this person before? Or even if you've seen the person, you can't recall what the person is doing, and depending on how fast the organization is going. Are you at a point where you need to start focusing on your second layer, instead of thinking about the good old days where you could talk to everybody in the organization? That you might be beyond that point now. The question now is, should I focus on developing and working very closely with my second layer and making sure that they are doing well by their own team, they're inspiring their team, they're motivating their own team, and they're getting things done? The measure of the performance of a team at that level changes dramatically from when you had your hand across all the pies. So that is one other area you have to think about. Are you having people problem? If you're having people problems, then the question is, how do you fix it? Is it going to be fixed by hiring? Is it going to be fixed by letting some people go? Is it going to be fixed by training or upskilling your people? Is it going to be fixed by redirecting or reshuffling how people are organized within the department and, within the company, moving people around, placing people in certain positions, bringing on board new people to inject new level of, energy and drive and knowledge into the team? These are part of the things that you need to think about. Also, it could also be external factors that led to the issues you faced as a company. So the question is, if there are external factors, how do you address those? Or maybe you can't even address them. A good example, in the rice sector in 2025, the government, because of the need to fight inflation, allowed the importation of rice into the country. Once we start importing rice into the country, the reality is that prices will crash. People who have locally produced, they're going to be significantly impacted because they've produced at a high cost. Now the selling price of rice is even lower than their own cost price. So if they should sell at that price, they're already at a loss. Anyways, they don't even have a choice. They can't keep the bags of rice forever, so they need to sell. They are selling at a loss. That might be external factors that affected your business during the course of the year. It could be many other things. So many things have happened in the country during the course of in countries across Africa during the course of the year. There have been places where there have been challenges. There have been macro issues. There have been micro issues. There were policies that came from the US that impacted several economies across Africa. There's still the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. There are other issues happening in different parts of the world, and somehow all those things to find a way to impact your business. It might even be locally in your country where there are policies that are being released by the government, and those things are impacting your business in an adverse way. And for some of you, those policies are actually like tailwinds helping your business to soar. But you need to understand what those things are. Don't just assume that yes, they are, because guess what? They might happen again. The reason why you're doing this assessment is so that you can be better prepared. Now, if you know that there's going to be an impact or a potential policy impact on your business, you can better prepare. Whether it happens or not is a completely different scenario, but you can better prepare yourself for such eventualities. And it might also just be distractions. As funny as this is, many of us spent the time we're supposed to use chasing new customers, commenting on Instagram threads, commenting on Facebook threads, on TikTok trends. You just got distracted, whether it's also just spending more time than is necessary on TV, watching movies, the next Netflix thing, and you just got distracted. You also have to own up to this. I mean, very honest with yourself and tell yourself, look, I know I was distracted this year. The question is, how do you deal with that distraction in 2026? Very, very important part. In fact, I think this is one of the biggest problems many people are facing. There's so many distractions out there right now. It might even be parties. Maybe you go to too many parties during the course of the year, and you just lost focus, or the money you were supposed to reinvest in the business. Another important thing, you spent it on many other personal things, and as a result, that money could not go back into the business to drive further growth. So that's it, looking back into 2025. Now, looking forward into 2026, you want to sit down and ask yourself, what are the things you want to get done in 2026? What are the goals for 2026? Remember, one of the best ways to do this is to make it a team effort. Let the members of your team also contribute into making that goal for the year. Now, I'm not saying that you just take what they give you and take that as a goal, because many employees will be very, very guarded in terms of how aggressive they are in terms of target. They want to meet their target, so they will not be as aggressive, but you still want to get their input. You want to see what builds up into that budget, into that goal you are presenting for 2026. In doing that, you yourself can assess, do I even have what it takes to meet this target? That's another thing you have to do a reality check on. Do I have what it takes to make this audacious target I'm setting for myself and for the team? Do I have what it takes? If you do not have what it takes, then it doesn't mean you change your goal. Sometimes you just need to get the right resources to back up the goal that you have for the year. A good example, you've told yourself that you want to sell a certain volume of product, but you look at your production line, the capacity cannot give you that product. Then why are you budgeting for that? Because you cannot. Now you can say, oh yeah, if we make enough money, we'll expand capacity during the course of the year. Then build that into your forecast. Tell yourself that, build a forecast based on the current volume you have. But then look at the second scenario, that if I then had additional capacity, then I will be able to, you see that next, and I'll be able to reach this target. The target will change in June, it will change in July or August, and I'll begin to move towards the new trajectory, the new direction that I believe the business should go in. What are some of the enablers that will make you meet those goals? The first thing is you need to make sure that you cascade those goals down to the rest of the team. Set into KPIs, key performance indicators, for every member of your team. Everyone needs to have what they are working towards, and ensure that no one is working on anything that is distracting from the key goals that you have. Let everyone's activities, you're paying for the time, right? So you want to make sure that everyone's activities, the activities build up into the central goal that a company has for the year. You also need to identify who do you need the resources, who do you need to hire, who do you need to let go. I've said this before. Sometimes these decisions are helping not just for the company but even for the person, because when somebody is not performing too well in your role as well, and you've tried to support and help to shape how they perform and it's still not working, it begins to affect the self-esteem of the individual. So sometimes it also helps, just because of that, to let them go into and explore the opportunities. But it has to be from a place of understanding that there has been different things that have been done to make sure or support them to deliver in their role, and it's just not worked out as well as either of you or both of you wanted it to be. So do you need to train? That's another thing we overlook as companies. People, need to be upskilled. People need to be exposed to ways things are being done in other parts of the country or the world, and therefore, do you need to upskill your team? Do you have plans? Do you have a budget for that to make sure that you can grow your team, your customers, your stakeholders? What are your plans for them during the course of the year? Do you want to spend more time with them? Do you want to introduce them into, or further integrate with them better so that you can execute well and implement well, or you don't think that is important? So it's important to think about how you're going to measure those KPIs as it trickles down to your team, and how you're going to train them, and how you're going to onboard new people into the organization. Some of the things you need to check in 2026 as you go through the year to make sure that they are like bedrocks to support your business. One is proper governance. I've said this over and over and again, but it's because I've seen how critical and how important it has been to many businesses. And governance is on one hand, having the right responsibility cascaded in the right way, and people can be held accountable for the decisions they made, including you as the owner, as the founder, as the entrepreneur that started, as the visionary of the business. You want to make sure that you're under authority as well. You want to make sure that somebody's checking you against the goals. Otherwise, you just set a goal. If you don't meet it, nobody holds you accountable. It's one of the most scary things that any entrepreneur can have. Going into a meeting knowing full well someone is going to ask you a question. You said you were going to add 30 new customers to the pipeline, and you're going to onboard 3-4 new customers. The question is, what happened? You did not. Then you now have to start explaining to them. The fact that you're going to make that explanation puts on your toe every single day to make sure that you can achieve those goals. So you want to have a proper governance, but that's one part of governance. Another part of governance is, do you have the right system of policies or processes that can begin to shape how people do things in your business? I talked earlier about sometimes you're firefighting. Maybe it's because new people that join the organization don't understand how you deal with your customers, so they mess things up along the way. Do you have like an SOP that guides how engagement with customers should be? If you have that kind of SOP, new employees are onboarded with them. So you want to take some time this year also to look at what are the policies that you have in place. And thirdly is in terms of your compliance. It's time also going to get to tax season. Things are going to change from a tax point of view. 2026 in some countries like Nigeria, in other countries it's stable. You already know what it looks like and you need to work with it that way. So how compliant are you? Get your books in order. Make sure that you're doing right by the government as well as doing right by your employees. So make sure you pay attention to governance in your business in 2026. The second thing is your financials, the numbers. These are the things that guide the business. These are the things that gives you an idea of whether you're going in the right direction or not. Many people, for example, don't even know what their numbers are like. All they have is their bank statements. You need to move from that point of view. At the very minimum, you need to be getting your monthly statements or quarterly statements, depending on how complex your business is. And that helps you to understand what is happening in the business. Based on that, you can then begin to navigate towards making critical business decisions based on the numbers. You get support. If you can't hire people, look for people who provide third-party support to businesses to be able to build their finance unit, whether it's in terms of doing their cash flow forecasting, their budgeting, their monthly management accounts with insights, dashboards, helping them to think about treasury, how they put available cash into short-term securities, just to make sure that your money is earning something while it's there. You need people to help you begin to think creatively. So if you don't have that manpower within your team, look for how to outsource it to a third party. But if you can, onboard that capacity into your team and begin to see how it empowers and builds your business as well. And then thirdly, I never say this enough, is your team. Make sure that in 2026 they are sufficiently motivated. It doesn't have to be about just salaries. It could be about just recognitions. It could be about inspiring your team by leading from the front, and they're saying that look, you're taking the business more seriously. It could also be about you're paying attention to not spending company financials on yourself, but rather you pay yourself a salary and you're making sure that the flows from the company are going back into growth. You want to see that you you have a future for the business and they want to support you in that direction. I've said a lot. I think I've said more than what I plan to say, because this is supposed to be like a Christmas edition, and I don't want to keep you bogged down. I know many of you want to go and enjoy and spend some time with your family and friends, and I don't want to hold you back longer than I should. So well done coming this far to the end of 2025, and I'm believing very strongly that 2026 is going to be more is going to be better structured, better planned, better organized, and you're going to see yourself soar. There will be headwinds, there will be policy twists, there will be macro related events that will impact you. So I can assure you about that. Is one of the most constant things in business. So you shouldn't be shocked that, oh my God, this thing happened. They will happen, but you just need to see how to build your own fortitude to be strong enough as a business, as an organization, to be able to manage those periods of those periods where there are strong headwinds eating your business, and there are going to be tailwinds as well. Enjoy them when they are there. Make the best of them. I'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a happy 2026 in advance. Thank you very much, and see you in 2026.